Have you ever wondered why that exceptionally bright kid from your school, the one everyone thought would change the world, is now struggling with relationships, career decisions, or finding purpose? How is it possible that someone who seemed destined for greatness now feels paralyzed by life's ordinary challenges? I was that kid. Maybe you were too. The one who teachers singled out, who parents bragged about, who didn't need to study for tests. He's so smart, they'd say, not realizing those words were laying the foundation for a peculiar kind of prison, one with invisible walls built of expectations and identity. Think of it like a golden cage, beautiful, enviable from the outside, but a cage nonetheless. With each academic achievement, each gold star, each "you're so smart," another bar was added until one day the door quietly locked behind you. Today, I want to explore what happens when intelligence becomes more than just a trait, when it becomes the core of who you believe you are, and how that belief can lead to a life of disconnection and stagnation. Let me tell you about Alex. By age 7, Alex was reading at a high school level. Teachers moved him to advanced classes, and relatives would introduce him as the genius. Alex didn't choose this label, it was given to him, but he quickly learned to embrace it because it brought attention, praise, and a sense of being special in a world where children desperately want to stand out. For years, this identity served him well. School was easy, people were impressed. Alex didn't need to try very hard to succeed, but then this very advantage became the problem. Take a moment right now and ask yourself, what activity have you been avoiding solely because you might not immediately excel at it? Maybe it's learning a language, playing an instrument, or trying a sport. Feel that resistance in your chest, that tightness that comes with the thought of being a beginner? That's the trap, because when your entire self-concept is built around being the smart one, failure isn't just failure, it's an identity crisis. I remember the first time I encountered calculus in college. After coasting through mathematics my entire life, suddenly I was struggling. I'd stare at problems, completely lost, and instead of seeking help, I'd think, if I am truly smart, I should be able to figure this out on my own. My heart would race when the professor asked questions. I started skipping class, avoiding study groups, isolating myself, all to hide the fact that I was struggling. I'd sit alone in my dorm, textbook open, feeling like an imposter, the weight of my smart kid identity crushing me with each problem I couldn't solve. But then came the workplace. In my first job, I'd spend hours perfecting emails before sending them. I'd agonize over presentations, rewriting slides dozens of times. Work that should have taken hours took days because everything had to demonstrate my intelligence. The thought of my boss or colleagues seeing a mistake felt catastrophic. This is the paradox of the intelligent child. The very quality that once made life easier becomes the reason life gets harder. Picture intelligence not as a trait, but as a mask. One you've worn for so long that you've forgotten there's a face underneath. When your identity is built on effortless achievement, effort itself becomes threatening. Struggle doesn't feel like growth, it feels like evidence that maybe you aren't who you thought you were. And that's terrifying. This fear creates 3 devastating patterns that follow smart kids into adulthood. First, they develop a narrow comfort zone, only pursuing activities where success is guaranteed. Imagine your potential as a vast landscape, but you're only allowing yourself to walk on a single, well-worn path. What wonders might exist in those unexplored territories? Second, they replace authentic connection with intellectual analysis. I've watched countless social gatherings through this lens. Standing against the wall, drink in hand, observing interactions like an anthropologist rather than a participant. Rather than experiencing emotions with others, you observe and calculate. Should I laugh now? Was that comment appropriate? What's the optimal response here? It's exhausting, and others can sense the difference between presence and performance. Third, when the pain of disconnection becomes too much, they often retreat into defensive arrogance, convincing themselves they're simply too deep or too intellectual for ordinary relationships. They just don't get me, becomes the armor against rejection. However, beneath that armor is a person desperate for genuine connection. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, I want you to know something important. This isn't who you are. It's a strategy you developed to feel safe and valued in the world. It served a purpose once, but now it's holding you back from the life you could be living. Imagine 2 versions of the same moment. Version 1, you're invited to a dance class. Immediately, your mind fills with visions of failure. Everyone will see I have no rhythm. I'll look foolish. This will prove I'm not naturally good at everything. Therefore, you decline, and another opportunity for joy and connection passes by. Version 2, you're invited to a dance class. You notice the familiar anxiety but respond differently. I'm going to be terrible at this, and that's exactly why I should go. This isn't about being the best, it's about expanding who I am. You go, you stumble, you laugh, and in those moments of shared imperfection, you feel more connected than any display of brilliance could ever allow. If nothing changes, this pattern doesn't just cost you experiences, it costs you life itself. Year after year, the walls grow higher. The mask grows heavier. The list of things you can't do expands while your sense of who you are contracts. Relationships remain surface level because real intimacy requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels dangerous when your worth is tied to perfection. Is that the life you want? Decades of safety without growth? Security without discovery? A mind full of knowledge but a heart starved for experience? The way forward isn't about becoming less intelligent. It's about expanding your identity beyond intelligence alone. It's about learning to value growth over perfection, connection over impression, and authenticity over performance. This means deliberately stepping into situations where you don't have all the answers. It means allowing yourself to be a beginner again, clumsy, uncertain, and gloriously human. Therefore, you must replace "I should already know this" with "I get to learn this." It means understanding that your worth never depended on being the smartest person in the room. It comes from being fully present in it. I still remember my turning point. I joined an improv class, possibly the worst environment for someone who needs to plan and control everything. For weeks, I was terrible. I froze on stage, mouth dry, heart pounding, overthought every interaction, and wanted to quit after each session. But then something unexpected happened. I kept going. Slowly, something shifted. I started to enjoy the process rather than evaluating the outcome. I laughed at my mistakes instead of being defined by them. I connected with others not through analysis but through shared vulnerability. I'll never forget the moment it happened. I completely blanked on stage during a scene. In the past, this would have been my nightmare. However, instead of panic, I felt a strange lightness spread through my body as I simply turned to my scene partner and said, "I have no idea what happens next." The audience laughed. My partner jumped in with an idea. In that moment of admitted imperfection, I felt the golden cage door swing open. That class didn't make me a great performer, but it helped break the walls I'd built around myself. Walls constructed from the simple childhood belief that being smart was the only way to be valuable. If you're caught in this trap, know that the door has always been unlocked. You can step out anytime by embracing this truth. Your intelligence is a tool to navigate the world, not the measure of your worth within it. Try something new today. Be gloriously, refreshingly bad at it. Let others see you struggle. Connect through shared humanity rather than projected perfection. Feel the exhilaration that comes with setting down that heavy mask and breathing freely, perhaps for the first time since childhood. Therefore, the freedom waiting on the other side is worth every moment of discomfort. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.